After all the training drills have been captured on film and the press conference, the individual media duties, Nigel and I thought we should take ourselves back to a place just as familiar as the pitch and the Spitfire Lounge. It is, of course, our new media gantry. And what better place to spend a few moments discussing the game that lies ahead of us. Well, Nigel, I have to ask you, first of all, how has today been for you, a lifelong Stones fan, to see this level of attention on the club? We thought the fourth round press conference that we were at 4 weeks ago was busy and full of names. What was today like in comparison?
Well, yeah, it's just gone up that next level, wasn't it? Do you know what I mean? It's yeah, you know, we was having conversations with Mark Clement, wasn't we? And the moves from TalkSport, and you know, all of them kind of people are here, and it's all down to what the team's done this season. It's like George said in that press conference. It's everybody at Maidstone. You know, it's just put Maidstone name back on the map, hasn't it?
Exactly, it really has. Every club we've played from the first round has been the form team in their division. You know, you look at Chesham, they only had the one loss in the league at that stage, probably still the same, frankly, the run they've been on. Barrow, the form team in the country at that stage. Stevenage, form team in League One around the playoffs. Ipswich, top two in the Championship at the time, and seemingly 1 foot in the Premier League at that point. So all the teams, red hot form. Coventry, no exception, only 2 defeats in their last 21 games. The Stones' form leading up to each of those FA Cup games hasn't really filled everybody with confidence, frankly. And yet these players, Nigel, they keep turning up for these big games. How do they keep doing it?
Well, I think it's down to what Craig and George have done with the team, isn't it? It's like, you know, you could see that on Aveley on Tuesday evening. You know, there was, you know, obviously making the for the FA Cup, they're keeping themselves fit. You had Craig that's come back. Harry didn't feature on Tuesday night, but he did play in under 23. So, you know, these are all big players for us. And I think they know now that this is, you know, this is going to be season defining, career defining in history, isn't it? So, you know, they're buying into that, and they're, you know, producing the goods time on time. Like you say, you look at the, you know, all the stats before, we shouldn't stand a chance. There's no rhyme or reason. You know, this elusive magic of the FA Cup, you know, if you could get it and bottle it, you know, every team would be doing it, wouldn't they? But, you know, it just comes down to that, the collective, and sometimes it's just written in the stars. You know, there is, like I say, there's no rhyme or reason to it. It's just what will be, kind of thing, really.
Que sera, as they say. I mean, I always come out with my stats, Nigel, so I'll bang 1 or 2 more out to you. The Stones have as many away wins in the FA Cup this season as they do in the league. They always say league form doesn't count when you're playing in the FA Cup, and it won't play a part on Monday because, I mean, they've had so many decent away days in the FA Cup already. The form of sorts is there from the Cup, even though it won't be valid in a sense, but it's not their first rodeo, is it, the Stones?
No, that's right. You know, we were saying there, wasn't we, just before in the Spitfire Lounge there from that press conference, you know, what this FA Cup run has done now, it's teams, when they play us in the league, raise their game by that extra 20%, you know, because of the awe that's around Maidstone United at the moment. We tend to find ourselves playing better against the teams that, you know, are big clubs in their own right, like Yeovil and Torquay, you know, so we can sort of match those teams and get ourselves up for those. But it's like, you know, like we said, like Aveley on Tuesday night or Monday night as it was, they raised their game that little bit extra, and because we had that one mind on the FA Cup, you know, you could see in the second half especially, couldn't you? The players are just not going for that 50-50 ball, that 50-50 challenge, you know, which is natural. They're humans at the end of the day, and this is going to be the biggest game of their lives, you know. So, you know, it's just don't get disheartened. That's what I would say. You know, just go in what you believe in. Go in what, you know. Make the most of it. Enjoy it, as George says. Just enjoy the day, and what will be will be.
Indeed. So Nigel, you asked about the players in the press conference and if they'd noticed any change in attitude from fellow players and officials due to the media attention. Have you yourself seen a change from the Stones players in the last month or so between rounds 4 and 5?
Yeah, I think, like I said, they've got that one mind on that game, haven't they? You know, they're human at the end of the day. And then the opposition players, you know, when we go to the likes of Aveley, and, you know, these players are National South players. You know, they play up against like the likes of Sam Corn and that, you know, year on year. But obviously their profile has been raised in the media, hasn't it? So, you know, it's just getting that balance right, isn't it? You know, so it's just a suck it in and just enjoy the moment, isn't it? You know, it's for all of us, for fans alike, because you know we see it on, you know, the BBC have been down here this week filming, you know, wanting to film the Maidstone fans, and you know they're in the spotlight as well. You know, everything's sort of under that microscope of like on the edge. You know what I mean? It's like that sort of like we're not used to it, are we? You know, we're the county town of Maidstone, but we're so used to being the underdogs, and we are playing that underdog role. But you know, everybody is sort of like talking about Maidstone.
It is everybody. It's a word, the town on everybody's lips. A few more stats for you, of course. Coventry, their last quarter-final was after they beat Blackburn in the 5th round, and then they eventually lost to Chelsea at the CBS Arena 2-0 in 2009. That's the furthest they've been since they've moved grounds. Their home form this season, or in the Cup rather I should say, they've won 15 of 26 home FA Cup games in the CBS era. Not all played there, of course. They would have had a brief time at St Andrews, amongst other grounds. Northampton potentially, I think. Cobblers, no, it's true. Only West Brom have won at the CBS Arena this season. So that's 18 home games in all competitions. They've only lost the one. And I say that the form's not going to be a factor, but Coventry will obviously be confident of picking up yet another win at home. The 2 defeats in the last 21 I mentioned earlier, they're both on the road actually, both in East Anglia, Norwich and Ipswich. They've lost to, so the calibre of sides that they lose to, not very often. But I mean, they lose to sides in yellow, so that helps. Yep, so they've moved home themselves a few years before we did, before we returned home. And they've obviously got the playoff heartache from last season still potentially in the backs of their minds. And they might well, Nigel, be in a similar situation to the Stones, just sitting in the periphery, just inside, outside of the playoffs. At the time of recording, they've obviously got their game on Friday, so that might put them into the playoffs by the time we play them, depending on how the rest of the results go at the weekend. By the time Maidstone play on Monday, or potentially at Dover, Maidstone themselves could be finding themselves outside the playoff spots. So a very long-winded way of saying, for both sides, will this cup run potentially cost or aid either side in their ultimate aim in getting back to the Premier Division of each area of football?
I think Coventry have got more to lose than what Maidstone have in that respect. I know we moan about, or we mentioned the players that are cup tied, but equally, you know, when we come out of that FA Cup, you're gonna have players like Mo Fowl, Matt Rush, you know, that are cup tied that can't play in those games, and you know that they've proved that they're sort of big players for us this season. So, and potentially, you know, we mentioned the Dover game there, but the next 3 home games after that are Chelmsford, St Albans, and Bath. So all teams that are on. You mentioned it on the hot take on Monday evening as well. You know, our home form now is better than our away form. So, you know, they are going to be big games for that sort of thing. So, you know, hopefully we'll be up for that. And, you know, coming out of the Preston game, Coventry have got West Brom. Again, another team that's in and around them. So
The only one that's beaten them, as I mentioned earlier, at the CBS Arena. So,
well, wasn't there some at Ipswich as well? They hadn't lost many home games, did they? And Maidstone went there and...
Exactly, it's those sorts of parallels we keep seeing throughout this cup run with such good form that all of these league sides, and Chesham of course, that have had, most of them have managed to pick up the baton afterwards, but around that crunch time or just afterwards really has been some issues for them. Players to look out for, if you give us 2 or 3 names, and I might throw a cheeky stat in as I do.
Well, there's quite a few Kent connections there, isn't there, in the Coventry side? Lewis Binks is from Gillingham. Yeah. Ben Sheaf's from Dartford.
Yes.
I think he's injured at the moment, but I don't think he's due to feature on Monday. And then there's Matt Godden, again, you know, another Kent lad, born in Canterbury, had history with Ebbsfleet and Dartford. And I believe the last game he did play for Ebbsfleet was that National League South playoff final out win. So, you know, that's some stat to hang on to there for history and parallels, isn't it?
Especially if they bring him on near the end and he needs to get involved in a penalty shootout. More on that later on. It's one thing I spoke about off camera with you. It's sort of a Raya and Ramsdale sort of situation at Coventry as well, where they've got 2 number ones. You know, Ben Wilson, Bradley Collins, both played about 50% of the matches each, and I mean, does that seem, do you think would cause a problem in the back line? It's 10 clean sheets out of 37 for Coventry this season, and Bradley Collins has got slightly more of those from one game more. Does that disrupt a back line, having those two number ones, do you think?
I don't know. I've never really sort of come across that before. You know, it's sort of like, how are they going to look at it? Do they sort of think that, you know, if they're playing in this game against a perceived lesser team, are they the number two? And that sort of put their confidence the other way. You know, it could potentially sort of think, well, you know, I deserve a rest, and you know, why am I playing this game? And you know, you just don't know how their minds work. You know, like I say, of course they've got that West Brom game coming up on the horizon. So again, and then we've got the Friday game as well. If one of them makes a clanger against Preston, then it could give the other one the nod. So we will see on the day, won't we?
We will. Striking options for them. I mean, we've already mentioned Matt Godden, of course. There's Ellis Sims. He's got 3 in his last 6 games. He's played in every league game for Coventry or thereabouts. And Haji Wright, 4 of his last 5 goals have been at home, and he is their top scorer. So you think either of them has got more of a game suited to go up against Maidstone's back 4 or 5 on Monday?
I think it's going to be on what Mark Robbins, you know, what he thinks the players need. You know, I mean, they're all like Maidstone are, to be fair. They've all got these GoPros, and you know, they know what their fitness levels are like. And you know, it might be that they start with a player and then bring him off at half time, hoping to sort of get a lead and then rest them, or could go the other way and you know, try and save them like Ipswich did to bring on in second half and bring the result home. But you know, we saw with Ipswich the dangers of that. You know, you can sort of think that you can be comfortable, and then these players can come on just for a few minutes, and then they just can't get there up to speed of the game. So
yeah, it can disrupt the shape, disrupt what
exactly
they're trying to do. Yeah.
Hi bud. The Two Brits One Yank, the new podcast. Make sure you go and check it out. Perfect.
Well, Nigel, we filmed this 4 days before the match itself. In the time between now and match day, Coventry, of course, have that game on Friday against Preston, as we've mentioned. The Stones will have played just one league match in a little over 2 weeks, aided by that postponement at the Marshland that is Taunton and the cancellation with Weymouth that should have been it on Saturday. With that in mind and the gaps between play, put you on the spot. Score predictions.
oh, there you go. I kind of think I'm confident. I've got the same degree of confidence that I had against Barrow. Now, I was pretty confident against Barrow. No, I don't know why, but I was. I just think that something's going to happen. If you push me for a result, I would say a draw. But of course, that's not going to happen because this round we lose the replay, so you can't get a draw. So, and part of me thinks as well that if it does go the 90 minutes and goes the full 120 minutes and penalties, you know, would that fitness level come into play? You know, we know they're all the players are fit. You know, we know George drills them well, but you know that kind of fatigue fitness. You know what I mean? That concentrating for the full 120 minutes and then having to get yourself up into penalties. You know, I think it's going to be a sort of like do or die. Do it in the 90 minutes, and you know, either way get a result that way, and then move on. But I would say I'm fairly confident that. What a prediction, I don't know. It's going to be close, isn't it? I can't see us, you know, unless something really miraculous happens that they, you know, make a silly challenge and give away a penalty. You know, you don't know these things, do you? You know, you don't know how a game's going to turn out. You know, they say play the game and not the name. So you know, there might be an opportunity within the game to to grasp that opportunity and really give yourself the advantage, and you can dictate the play, and you know, whether it be back to the walls for the rest of the game or whatever. You know, you just don't know, but you just got to be up for all sort of scenarios, haven't you, and see where it takes you.
Well, I mean, if the penalty's there, I mean, a bit of synergy again there. Round 2 for Sam Corn, open play. Round 3 with a penalty. Round 4 open play. Could potentially score 4 rounds in a row, get himself that penalty for a victory from there, or at least a moment, as people have been saying. In terms of the penalty shootout record, and I have to bring it up because you said, oh, you can't have a draw. I mean, you can. And if we did get there, Maidstone's record is fairly impressive post Stonebridge Road. The last 10 shootouts they've won 7 of the 10 in all competitions in the trophy and the Kent Senior Cup as well as the FA Cup. Coventry's, though, in that same time, they've only won 3 of their last 10, and that obviously includes the playoff final against Luton last season. If it gets to that sort of stage psychologically, surely there's a chance that will be in the back of the minds of their players, because a bulk of that squad is still there from last season. Notably, the chap who missed, I believe, went to Forest Green and didn't have much time for Troy Deeney, I think, from memory recently. But, you know, psychologically, in the backs of the players' minds at Coventry, Maidstone would, you know, George said in the presser there that they haven't practiced and done much about penalties, they'll deal with it on the day. Surely that's a bit of motivation for Maidstone to know that if they can get it to that stage, they would look at numbers like this.
Yeah,
and potentially there is that sort of mind game, you know, are Maidstone already half a penalty ahead or a penalty ahead in that shootout before they even start? Because, you know, that pressure cooker of Wembley, the playoff final, that close to that couple of 100 million and reassuring the club being in the Premier League, seeing what Luton have done these last 6 months in the Premier League as well, could play its part, couldn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, there's so many different scenarios there, isn't there? You know, you say about the hangover from the Championship penalty shootout, you know, just going on our record, you know, of penalties, you know, it's quite a favourable one there. You know, 75% of our penalty shootouts we've won. George's very first game in charge was the penalty shootout victory over Notts County.
Yeah.
You know, that was coming on the back of the York debacle the week before that. So, you know, the players would have been at such a low ebb there, but he got them up for that penalty shootout. Lucas Coughlin, you know, penalty shootout, you know.
He's due one again, you're saying?
Well, yeah, the National League playoff final, you know, although Torquay weren't on the right side of that, he did actually save 2 penalties. Just the fact that the Torquay players couldn't put the ball in the back of the net, it's not his fault, is it? You know, he did actually save those penalties. So, you know, there's lots of little subplots and sub-twists in this game, you know. You know, and it's like we've said earlier, you know, it's the magic of the FA Cup. You know, what that formula is, you don't know. But, you know, Maidstone are the story of this FA Cup, and why can't it continue? You know, why can't we? You know, I've got a flyer at home for that the Staining game.
He's going to go again. Go on.
The Staining game. They had to put a flyer out. Obviously, it was their biggest game they had in their history, but there was one, and it said "Dare to Dream." And that's
He held it together.
That's kind of been our motto, isn't it? You know, that's what George has given the players, given the supporter base, given the staff at the club. Dare to dream, and why can't you? You know, why can't you?
Exactly. Well, the specials of Coventry, naturally, sang about a ghost town 43 years ago. Maidstone could be a ghost town this coming Monday night when 5,000 of our fans make the trip to the bright lights of the CVS Arena in the concrete jungle of Coventry. What will the Stones achieve in their FA Cup 5th round match? Will they do nothing? Or will they break down the door and sock it to them, JB? Either way, a little bit me, a little bit you, will be watching. Why? Because I love you, Maidstone United. And yes, that is 8 special song names, as it's the 8th game of the Stones' historic FA Cup run so far. Thank you for watching our coverage of 5th round media day here at a drizzly, dank Gallagher Stadium. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we did making it. We look forward to bringing you our coverage of the game from Monday night, as and when that gets uploaded online on both Stones Live and Stones TV. Enjoy the game on Monday, however you're taking it in. I have my ticket, Nigel has his headset, Fred will also have his headset, so good luck to you two. Yep. For the evening.
Got the lucky underwear as well.
Good, all been pressed, ironed, lovely. Good luck to the Stones from all of us, from all of you. It was once in a lifetime last month. Twice in a lifetime, anyone? Send us to Coventry, why don't you? So it's goodbye, thank you, and as always,
come on, you Stones!
Come on!